Above the commercial flight paths, there is a tier of travel reserved for a highly exclusive class of passengers. These are top executives and global celebrities, figures like Taylor Swift, who make up the polluter elite. They bypassed crowded terminals entirely, relying on heavy private jets to move around the globe. This chart compares the fuel consumption of a heavy private jet to a single commercial passenger. These aircraft burn 400 to 500 gallons of fuel every hour, and the financial math tracks this burn, pushing the annual operating budget easily past $1 million. This combination of $1 million operating budget and extreme fuel burn creates a single demographic with the highest individual carbon footprints on the planet. Yet corporate press releases frequently claim this luxury travel has a net zero impact on the environment. They achieve this through voluntary carbon markets, a system where polluters pay a fee to fund environmental projects that claim to capture the exact amount of carbon their jets emit. This visualization puts that $1 million operating budget on one side of a scale and the cost of carbon offsets on the other. The price to erase a year of private jet emissions is a tiny fraction of what it costs to actually fly the plane, which raises an obvious question. What exactly are these individuals buying for such a low price? The massive discrepancy in cost indicates that these credits buy a public relations shield, while leaving the physical emissions effectively untouched. To see why this shield is so cheap, we must look at the middlemen, the auditors and certifiers who stamp these credits as legitimate. A highly popular product on this market is avoided deforestation. Corporations pay to protect existing rainforests from hypothetical logging that has not yet happened. This grid visualizes the results of a major investigation into Verra, the world's leading carbon standard. When researchers analyzed their specific rainforest credits, over 90% of them were found to be completely worthless. Similar auditing failures appear in agricultural rice projects. These initiatives sell credits for reducing methane, but many exist only on paper, failing to change any actual farming practices on the ground. The auditing system creates an illusion of capture. The carbon physically enters the atmosphere, but the offset only happens on a spreadsheet. Those spreadsheet entries translate to physical land in the global south, where these corporate-funded projects are actually hosted. This map illustrates green grabbing. Corporations and wealthy nations secure control over vast tracts of land across Africa and South America to maintain their carbon-neutral branding. Enforcing these offset zones often requires displacing indigenous populations. Communities that have managed these forests for generations are suddenly kicked off their ancestral lands to make way for a corporate nature project. This sudden displacement hits women particularly hard. In these gendered environments, losing land means women lose daily access to the essential firewood and resources they need to sustain their households. For the global north, this is a financial transaction on a ledger. For the local community, it is the physical loss of the hills and forests that sustain them, a transfer of land sovereignty sold as environmentalism. The evidence of fraud and displacement is public, yet the voluntary market remains largely unregulated. The status quo is maintained by pollutocrats, powerful entities that spend heavily on lobbying to keep this profitable system alive. These policy negotiations are dominated by a narrow demographic. Approximately 77% of European lobbyists are male, isolating the decision-making process from the diverse populations losing their land. You see the results of this influence at global climate summits. The leaders determining international policy are often the same ones benefiting from the cheap offsets that sustain their current lifestyles. The system continues to function because it effectively delivers exactly what its financiers want: the appearance of progress without the high cost of an actual energy transition. Ultimately, carbon credits act as a cheap indulgence for the ultra-rich, paid for by the world's most vulnerable communities. Genuine climate action requires strict financial and environmental regulatory pathways that replace these voluntary loopholes. As long as unregulated pollution permits are for sale, the climate crisis is merely being rebranded for a new era of consumption.